What's up guys, it's TheJarvitar, and today's topic is going to dive into a bit of recent Pokémon controversy. It's been about a year and a half since the release of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet's second DLC, the Indigo Disc. As part of that expansion, we are treated to both brand new Pokémon and some returning favorites. And the undeniable star from this group is the brand new evolution of the Steel Dragon type Duraludon, Archaludon, or Archaludon, one of the two. Archaludon has been at the center of many Pokemon discussions online. For one, it's totally busted. It's completely taken the competitive scene by storm, since it's already had the ban hammer brought down upon it. This is only a fraction of what people are saying about this staple remover. What I really want to focus on today is its status as a potential Pseudo Legendary Pokémon.
I'm gonna say that one more time.
Pseudo Legendary Pokémon. Does Bridgeboy here have the claim on the title? That's what I want to discuss today. First off, we should really start by defining what a pseudo-legendary Pokémon is. Essentially, it's an arbitrary distinction made to a specific class of Pokémon. Historically, the most important aspect of a pseudo-legendary Pokémon is the base stat total of 600. Other than that, all pseudo-legendaries have been part of a 3-stage evolution line, evolved through level up, kinda, we'll get to that in a bit, have a slow growth rate, and have been introduced one per generation. Also kinda. When applying these traits, we are left with 10 evolutionary lines. In generational order, they are Dragonite, Tyranitar, Salamence and Metagross, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Goodra and its Hisuian form, Kommo-o, Dragapult, and finally Baxcalibur, being the most recent. These Pokemon are what the greater Pokemon community have defined as pseudo-legendary Pokemon. So where does Archaludon fit into this, and does it really have a claim? Let's circle back to what traits were consistent throughout this squad. The most important distinguisher is that base stat total of 600. So does Archaludon meet this requirement? Well, yes it does, that's why it's being considered. Archaludon has the power required of a pseudo. No one can really doubt that. It's the other parameters that start to give us some nuance. Archaludon is only part of a 2-stage line, coming from the already powerful Duraludon. The traditional theming of the small and weak first stage becoming a formidable beast is lost when looking at Archaludon's line, so that's certainly not a point in its favor. The next determiner is the method of evolution. Duraludon evolves into Archaludon upon exposure to the new item, the Metal Alloy. With that in mind, it's not looking good for our metal buddy. Until you look a little closer at another one of those evolutionary lines mentioned before. Not every line evolves with just levels. Sliggoo will evolve into Goodra in either its normal or Hisuian form at any level over 50, as long as it is currently raining. This distinction is enough to call into question just how seriously we take the evolution method requirement. Anyone who has had to evolve a Sliggoo for their Pokédex knows just how obnoxious it can be to track down a stupid rainstorm. All in all, I think it's definitely something we should consider when we're deciding whether or not Archaludon can hang. Another important thing to touch on is growth rates. Every existing pseudo has a slow experience growth rate, meaning that it will take an investment of about 1,250,000 experience points in order to get that Pokemon all the way up to level 100. Archaludon does not have a slow growth rate. It's actually part of the medium-fast group, meaning it only takes 1,000,000 experience points to raise it up. So that's another point not in Archaludon's favor. But really, as far as any of these groupings are considered, they're completely arbitrary. The official Pokemon Company makes no such distinction for any of these Pokemon. The term pseudo-legendary is completely fan-created. Therefore, maybe we should look to some more information from the broader Pokemon community on behalf of Archaludon. In Japan, fans there don't use the term pseudo-legendary. Instead, they have what's called the 600 Club. In essence, it's exactly the same, reserved for the most powerful Pokemon of a given generation with a base stat total of 600. It's clean and concise. And look who's there hanging out with the rest of them, Archaludon. I'd say that's a point for the bridge. The last major trait we should touch on is exclusivity. Adding Archaludon to the list would make it the second pseudo from Gen 9 next to Baxcalibur, and for the most part, pseudos are introduced one line per generation. This held true in every generation except one. It's Gen 3. Everyone knows that Gen 3 has two pseudos. It's Metagross and Salamence. So really there's no reason to use this as a defense against its inclusion. So really when it comes down to it, the competing traits that we need to look to either throw out or include Archaludon as a pseudo are base stat total versus the 3-stage designation. So what's more important? I say it's the stats. Because what makes these Pokemon what they are is their power. The reason they're called Pseudo Legendaries in the first place is because their power rivals that of actual legendaries. Aside from that, since it already gets the nod outside of Western fan circles, why shouldn't we consider it? Archaludon has the chops for sure. Its power has already cemented itself as a staple in the game for years to come. With all that in mind, I have no problem claiming that Archaludon is in fact our 11th pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Now that we've established that, there are many other Pokemon that also get thrown into consideration as well. For one reason or another, these guys don't make the cut, and for that reason they're usually designated under an even less official title of semi-pseudo-legendary Pokemon. The reasoning usually used on behalf of these Pokemon is either raw power, proximity to existing pseudos, or just overall popularity. Many 3-stage dragon types get thrown into this mix because so many of the official lines are dragons. Kingdra, Flygon, and Haxorus are all examples of this. Aggron also gets the nod because of its similarities to Tyranitar. These two Pokemon often mirror each other in version exclusives and megas. Slacking has a base stat total of 680, so it's on par with most actual legendaries, but its reputation alongside its ability have held it back from being considered as an actual pseudo. Aside from those 3-stage Pokemon, some 2-stage ones get the semi-pseudo nod based on their relevance. Lucario and Zoroark both got movies, so they seem to be considered. Noivern and Volcarona both are dominant late-game additions in their respective generations, on top of the fact that they come from weak first stages. Volcarona specifically had an overworld encounter where you could encounter it in black and white, giving a lot of players the impression that it was just an actual legendary. When it comes down to it, the real pseudo-legendaries are the friends we made along the way. It's totally arbitrary, so do whatever you want, you terrifying bridge stable remover dragon thing. With that, if you were down for a discussion video kinda like this one, make sure to leave a like. It helps know that this is the kind of thing that you're into. And if you've got some spicy hot takes, questions for other discussions, or if you just straight up don't agree with me, let me know in the comment section. And finally, make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content, and peace out, Pokemon trainers.